are back with our budget hearings for the Historical Commission. We've got Tim Walker with us, and he's got some folks that I'll let him introduce here in a second. We are also joined by Councilmember John Cooper and Councilmember Nancy Van Rees in the back, so we welcome them. We're happy to have all of you. I want to just reiterate for the viewers at home that it is more likely over the next several days that we will have a request for funds that exceed the amount of dollars that we have to allocate. So as we take these conversations through to their conclusion, we will make sure that we effectively and efficiently allocate those dollars to the best use of Nashville's taxpayers. But I want you to know that there are a lot more requests than there are dollars. But we look forward to hearing what your conversation is and what you're up to. So Tim, please take it away. I'll let you introduce your folks.
Well, thank you, Mayor Berry, Director Lomax, Day O'Neill, and Mr. Riebling. We appreciate this opportunity, and good morning. I do want to introduce my administrative assistant. To my far right is Yvonne Ogren. Just to my right is the chair of the Metro Historic Zoning Commission, Brian Tibbs. And to my left is the chair of the Metro Historical Commission, Jim Forcom. And also joining us are members of both our commissions. And I hope everybody's arrived, but I'll read their names since they're behind me.
Yes.
They are Bob Allen, Monet Bell, Clay Bailey, Jim Hubler, Caitlin Jones, Lynn Maddox, Elizabeth Mayhall, and Mark Rogers.
Great.
So,
back there. Great.
so I'll begin.
Please.
I've grouped our budget request into three categories: administrative, staffing, and consulting. The administrative request totals $43,300 and would cover ongoing maintenance and repair at the city cemetery, cleaning of our office, annual maintenance fees for software, updating and printing of tourism brochures, and increases for mileage reimbursement and professional membership fees. The staffing request of $172,200 is for 2 full-time positions and 1 temporary part-time position. Of the 2 full-time positions, 1 would support the Metro Historical Commission and its programs, but specifically this position is needed to update the sub-area surveys of historic resources, half of which are more than 10 years old. This includes stone walls, rural cemeteries, and archaeological sites. This position would also assist with the research and writing of publications, web-based app development, and historic markers. The second position would work in the historic zoning program and would assist with the increased workload, which is due to the continued growth of our local historic districts. And finally, the temporary position would allow our current administrative assistant, who retires this fall, to train her replacement. Our final request in the 3 categories is for $52,500, and it's for consulting. $2,500 of this request would cover professional fees for the review of economic hardship applications to the Historic Zoning Commission. The remaining $50,000 would be used to complete a historic preservation economic impact study for Davidson County. This study would evaluate the economic impact of historic overlays, their property values, how they affect neighborhoods, and look at potential tools we, the city, could create to assist property owners of historic buildings. It would also provide guidance not only to our department, but to the administration, Metro Council, and citizens of Davidson County. I'd really like to add, I'm very thankful for the support we've received from the administration, especially you, Mayor Berry, to create a historic preservation grant fund. This fund would provide much needed economic incentives for the preservation of our city's most threatened significant historic buildings. So thank you.
And let's talk about that for a second, because
Sure.
I agree with you. I think it's really exciting. Tell me about that, Tim, so that folks can know about it.
It is, well, thank you for the question. It is a program that obviously we came to you and we looked at the city of Knoxville. Here in Tennessee, unlike most other states, we don't have economic incentives. The state constitution prevents the most common economic incentive used in other states and by other cities, and that's property tax abatement. So here it's a real struggle. So Knoxville created 5 years ago a historic preservation grant fund. They have a annual application fee, and people who have worthy historic preservation projects, again, their most significant historic buildings, they can apply to the city for that money, and it's approved, and it allows those projects to be viable. Buildings we might otherwise lose that are really a part of Nashville's uniqueness.
Great. Yeah, I think it's very exciting. So one of the things I see here is you're also asking for some operating budgets for the city cemetery. City cemetery, I have a huge place in my heart. Just out of curiosity, quickly, have we been able to get the tree fixed and all the? I know we had the storm that blew down the big magnolia. I know that's on Parks, but I wanted to make sure that you guys are coordinating because the tombstones that were impacted by that.
Yes, and they are impacted. And that's the kind of annual maintenance fee repairs we're talking about.
Got it.
Because Parks can remove the tree, but then the stones are damaged and they sit there or have to be stored somewhere.
Got
and
it,
obviously that accumulates.
So that $25,000 would go toward helping with that kind of general maintenance.
It happens every year.
Yeah.
And as far as the tree, it had not been removed yesterday morning, but Parks was waiting until the ground was a little bit more solid because of the rain. They didn't want to do any damage.
Absolutely.
And because of where it sets off the road, that was a holdup. They did come out there and assess it, and I think they have removed some of the smaller things they could remove.
Got it.
But
Good.
they're really doing their job.
And then with the capital budget request for the city cemetery, tell me what that $150,000 would go toward.
Well, that's the first of 2 installments, and that would cover the completion of the master plan for the Nashville City Cemetery. And I was going to talk about that, and thank you for jumping me there. It was recommended, there was a 2006 master plan for the site that was done by a prior administration, and then that was funded by the administration and Metro Council. Because of the recession, it was fully funded. It was $3.1 million, actually. It had been more than 5 decades since any repair work had gone on at the city cemetery, except by the nonprofit and through efforts of our office. So it funded that. Unfortunately, because of the recession that happened in 2008, 2009, $750,000 of that was taken away. We really have been able to accomplish more than we thought we could with what we had. So we're only asking for 305 of the original 750 that was allocated for it to complete that master plan.
Okay. And would that actually go towards some actual
real repairs
as well?
Yes.
Okay.
Things that just weren't accomplished, and archaeology that wasn't fully done as part of the original master plan appropriation.
Staffing request, going back to that, I see you want 2.5 full-time FTEs. Tell me again what the 2 full-time FTEs would do.
Sure. Well, the first one, again, is just for our administrative assistant to train her replacement. So it would be a temporary position.
Okay.
So she would come in this fall once we have someone hired. She's leaving this fall and would probably only work for a few months part-time to get that person up and running. It's hard not to do that in a small office where people wear many hats. The other positions, one is for Historical Commission, and that's very important because our office maintains a survey of historic resources for Davidson County, and that's a very valuable tool used by all other departments, especially Metro Planning, and so they need that information to make the best decisions for development. As I talked about, we survey all historic resources, whether it be buildings, stone walls, archaeological sites, rural cemeteries. All of those things are included in that, and that gives planning the best information possible, and council and the administration as you're making decisions. And the other position is historic zoning, and I know we had a audit done that covered 2014, and but the historic zoning program has continued to grow. It's grown by double digits each of the last 2 years, and it will grow by double digits this year. In fact, we have 4 new districts that are in process of being designated, including Marathon Village and the land surrounding it. District out in Anthony Davis is a National Register district that'll be a local district in Anthony Davis's council district, and There's one off of Woodmont, adjacent to the city of Belmead. That's also the Kenwood, Woodmont
Sure.
National Register District, and that neighborhood's moving forward, and I forget the fourth. We also have 2 districts expanding, and we have 3 local landmarks that are in process. So as that program continues to grow, it takes more and more resources. We want to be accountable. We want to be we don't want to be reactive. We want to make sure
Sure.
that we're out there in the field checking properties and doing all the needed work to make sure we're efficient and timely with our response to the public.
Okay. Talia?
I want to ask you about the consultant study. Who would do a study like that for you? Would that be a local university? Would that be a design group, an engineering firm? Who would do that type of, would it be a finance? Would it be like somebody like UT Business, because you're saying an economic impact study?
Sure.
What are your thoughts
and
there?
it could be possible for a university to assist with that. I'm not sure if they would be able to carry it through its fruition. It's really a fairly specialized kind of business, historic preservation consulting firm. There are a number across the country that do that type of work. The reason we're asking for that is we continually hear people say that historic, in opposition to overlays, that historic overlays lower property values. There's no evidence to support that. And it really gives council members, the administration, our office a way to thwart that with a real study. Knoxville, Chattanooga, and Memphis have all done studies in the last 15 years. We haven't. Most major cities have, so we're really, behind on doing that. And I just think it proves to people the value of it. So that's why we're asking for it. But it could be that a university could assist with that and maybe lower the cost in some way.
Okay. And my other question had to do with planning came in here and talked about their turnover. And are you experiencing similar turnover? Because you guys are kind of recruiting from some of the same pools of applicants.
Yes. We're not experiencing the same kind of turnover, thankfully. I do have an employee that's leaving at the end of this month, but we're a much smaller office too, but we're not. I like to think that's because people really have a passion for what we do and they love what we do. And we have 2 great commissions that support our work, and I think that makes a difference also. But yeah, in this development frenzy, I'm sure there are people in Doug's office where they're being enticed with great sums of money to come leave and go to the private sector.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Indeed.
That's all I had.
Rich?
Just curious, how you've got 10 FTEs. How is that broken out between the 2 commissions?
Thank you. That's a good question. Of course, I'm the director.
Right.
Vaughn's the administrative assistant, wears many hats. And then with the staff of 8, we really have 5, I would guess probably 5 1/4 in historic zoning. And that leaves 2 3/4 in historical commission. There is a lot of overlap, but as you know, we manage the city cemetery. We were given that role in the 1980s, so, there was unfortunately a burial just over a week ago with Mr. West, our former vice mayor. And so people are still buried out there. It's an active cemetery. As you know, it's 19 acres. It's a very sensitive site, and it's the who's who of Nashvillians in the 19th century. We have almost 20 mayors buried there, and so I have a staff person from historic zoning who shares his time not only doing inspections but in managing that site. And because other departments consult with us, ask us to be on selection committees for RFQs. If it's a historic resource, we spend a bit of time with historic commission with that. So it's very opposite than when I started in the office 20 years ago. There were 7 FTEs. And only 1.5 of us were doing historic zoning. But that program has more than tripled, almost quadrupled in the number of properties and even more in the number of permits over that time. So it's a regulatory body, so we've really been forced to shift staff from all of the historical commission programming to historic zoning because that's a requirement. Thank you.
One last thing, I know this is not as part of your capital budget request, and I don't see it in here, but I did spend some time recently with you all at Sunnyside Mansion, and it absolutely is falling down. And I know that it's a huge concern as we think about preservation for historic sites and making sure that Sunnyside gets the TLC that it needs. I think that when we look at how we're going to invest in that property, that's going to impact you all. So as we move forward, we'll figure out what's best. But saving that building is a critical component, as well as the other buildings that are ancillary around it. So just
Thank
putting
you.
that out there. I appreciate you all. You guys have anything else for us? All right.
No.
We appreciate you
you.
coming down.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. It was good to see you, Councilman.
Thank you.